Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha with news tonight. Let's begin with the top stories first. Maha Alliance troubles in Maharashtra. While the ruling Congress-NCP alliance seems to be on the brink, the BJP Shiv Sena group is trying its best to stick together. Sushma Swaraj meets her Bangladeshi counterpart in Delhi. Illegal immigrants issue discussed. Both sides also talk about ways to enhance cooperation. Days ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's US visit, two influential American senators say the bilateral partnership is one of the most important in the world. And at the Asian Games in Incheon, shooter Jeetu Rai wins the first gold medal for India. Another shooter, Shweta Chaudhary, brings in a bronze. And the big story of the day, the tussle over seat sharing continues to rock Maharashtra Assembly elections. There is Congress and the NCP on one hand, and the BJP and the Shiv Sena on the other. With cracks appearing in the ruling NCP-Congress alliance, both parties have warned that they may go it alone in the state polls. But the BJP and Shiv Sena are still holding on to some hope of reaching an agreement.
The Congress and its ally NCP have both warned that the alliance may be at the brink. Taking a tough stand on the seat-sharing agreement, the NCP has said it will wait only for one more day for the Congress's decision. And if the party does not respond before the deadline expires, the NCP will go it alone.
124 के अलावा कोई और प्रस्ताव उनके ओर से आता तो शायद हम लोग इसके बारे में अवश्य विचार करके उनको हमारी जो भी राय होगी वो हम उनको सुझाव दे सकते थे। लेकिन आज इतना विलंब हो रहा है और कांग्रेस पार्टी से हमारा यही अनुरोध है कि अगले 1-2 दिनों में अगर हमने इस बारे में पूर्णता नहीं की तो निश्चित आगे आने वाले चुनाव की पूरी प्रक्रिया में हम इस काम को पूरा नहीं कर पाएंगे।
The Congress has not been far behind with its threats. The party's Central Election Committee met in New Delhi on Saturday to discuss the candidates for the upcoming polls in Haryana and Maharashtra. While there was a decision on Haryana, no consensus was built on Maharashtra.
उम्मीदवार लगभग तय है और अंतिम स्वीकृति और उसमें अगर कोई बदलाव करने हैं तो वो केंद्रीय चुनाव समिति
तो पेंडिंग और सीट उसमें हम पूरी तरह वहाँ पे सीट सब क्लियर करेंगे 2 दिन के अंदर। हमारी कोशिश है कि हम एक साथ जाए, उसके लिए चर्चा जो है हाईकमांड की तरफ से वो ये हमारी उम्मीद है। लेकिन जिस तरीके से एनसीपी अड़ी हुई है कुछ बातों के ऊपर, हम समझते कि वो ठीक नहीं है, फिर हमें अकेले चुनाव के लिए जाना पड़ेगा।
The NCP is demanding an equal share of the 288 seats in Maharashtra, something the Congress is not willing to concede. Meanwhile, the Shiv Sena has come up with a new seat-sharing proposal for Maharashtra. It has now offered 126 seats to the BJP, 7 more than last time.
शिव सेना के नेता सुभाष देसाई जी ने भारतीय जनता पार्टी को एक प्रस्ताव दिया है जिसमें 126 सीटें भाजपा लड़े, 7 सीटें शिवसेना स्वाभिमानी शेतकरी संगठना को देगी और 155 सीटें शिवसेना लड़ेगी।
बिल्कुल युति के पक्ष में युति होनी ही चाहिए, युति होगी। महाराष्ट्र में काफी अच्छा ये भी रहेगा और माहौल तो ऐसे भी अच्छा बना हुआ है कांग्रेस और राष्ट्रवादी में। मिशन 150 फॉर्मूला वर्क होगा काफी अच्छी तरह से, कोई तनाव कोई चीज युति में नहीं है।
The BJP's Central Election Committee met in the presence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday. They have decided on the names of candidates for Haryana, but all eyes will be on what they decide about Maharashtra. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on to another story now. Since he took over as Prime Minister, Narendra Modi has been busy ironing out and enhancing India's relationships with other countries, especially her neighbours. As part of this, the India-Bangladesh Joint Consultative Commission met in New Delhi today. Bangladesh Foreign Minister Abul Hassan Mahmood Ali led the Bangladeshi delegation.
Bangladesh Foreign Minister Abdul Hassan Mahmood Ali is in India to attend the third meeting of the India-Bangladesh Joint Consultative Commission. Bangladesh Foreign Minister Hassan Ali and External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj met with individual officials. The two sides discussed bilateral and regional issues. The illegal migrants issues was raised, with both sides agreeing to hold meetings between district commissioners of bordering regions.
The meeting was extremely productive, and Bangladesh and India have extremely close and warm relations, and these were reflected in the discussions. All the district magistrates and all the district collectors of areas, border areas contiguous between India and Bangladesh could meet together.
Besides the cross-border movement, the two sides also discussed trade along the border. India's northeastern region shares a 1,880-kilometer long border with Bangladesh and has the potential for developing cross-border trade. The two sides also discussed increasing the frequency of the Dhaka-Kolkata Maitri Express from twice a week to 3 times every week. It is also decided that the Guwahati-Shillong-Dhaka bus route will start from the end of this year. Announcement of ship movement between the nations were also discussed. Both nations share historic, cultural and economic links with each other. Dhaka has offered 16 locations to India for development of social economic zones.
The Bangladeshi Foreign Minister has informed the External Affairs Minister that Bangladesh is ready to provide a location where Indian businessmen can invest from a list of 16 locations that they have provided.
Ali Hassan also invited Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Bangladesh on behalf of Sheikh Hasina. Modi has accepted the invitation. Modi is expected to meet Sheikh Hasina in New York on 27th of September on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. With inputs from Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With floodwaters receding, life is limping back to normal in most parts of Jammu and Kashmir. Power and communication lines have been restored in a majority of the areas, and rehabilitation work is on fast track. As per official data, the number of deaths due to the floods has climbed to 280, while nearly 350 people are reported missing.
Over 200 people dead. Property worth crores lost. As floodwaters recede from the affected areas of Jammu and Kashmir, the enormity of loss has come to the surface. The loss in terms of infrastructure, private properties and businesses in the flood-ravaged state is immense. Dealing a severe blow to the educational infrastructure, floods have damaged as many as 1,276 government schools in Jammu alone. The extent of the damage in Kashmir is still unknown. Floods have also washed out Kashmir's apple crop worth 1,000 crore rupees, leaving apple farmers devastated and a vast collateral damage for the rest of the country's businesses and consumers. The price of apples will be sky high this festive season.
अभी 800 जाती थी पेटी, वो अभी 200 या 150 निकलेगी क्योंकि वो खुद गिरा हुआ है, बाहर नहीं बेच सकते।
The dry fruits market in Kashmir has also suffered major losses, with most shops inundated.
परेशानी यहाँ पर अब क्या करें, क्योंकि कस्टमर के जो फ्लो था वो पूरा डिक्रीज हो गया, मतलब कुछ आती ही नहीं यहाँ पर अब.
And as floodwaters recede, a grim picture emerges from the agriculture sector, where the deluge has washed away crops worth 365 crore rupees and 13,000 hectares of cultivable land has been lost. Crops like maize, rice, pulses and saffron have been completely damaged.
ललहर है, हाजीबल है, बॉर्डरपुरा है, लतपुरा है, बारूसा है, जोबेरा है, सब धान खत्म हो गया. एक बीज भी, एक दाने भी नहीं बच गया.
Both the centre as well as the state governments have assured farmers of all possible help in rebuilding their livelihood.
एग्रीकल्चर के साथ भी कंसल्टेशन करके तो जितना लॉस होगा उसके हिसाब से जो नॉर्म्स बनेंगे उस नॉर्म्स के हिसाब से पूरा जो है उनको लॉस दिया जाएगा.
However, with damages running into crores and the economy in tatters, it may take several years for the state to get back on track.
Hopes of earning profits have been completely dashed. The biggest worry for the farmers is recovery of cost of production. Actually, it's double whammy for them. One, their crops have been completely damaged. And second, the agricultural debt is mounting. Reporting from Anantnag with camera person Junaid, Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
And as Jammu and Kashmir struggles to overcome the natural calamity that hit it, militants from across the border are taking advantage of it. According to the Indian Army, more than 200 heavily armed militants are waiting across the line of control to infiltrate into the Indian territory. Here's a report.
At a time when flood-ravaged Jammu and Kashmir needs all the helping hands it can get, militants from across the line of control are busy implementing their own agenda. Around 200 heavily armed militants are waiting at the LOC to infiltrate into the Indian territory. This has been revealed by the army, which is busy not only in providing relief to the thousands affected by the floods, but also in fending off the militants.
Along with the rescue and relief operation which is going on in Jammu and Kashmir, the army is also keeping a check on the borders. Wherein there have been in lot many places there have been infiltration bid, and we have foiled many infiltration bid wherever we have found these things happening.
In fact, the army foiled an infiltration attempt on Saturday. The infiltration bid was taking place near the LOC in Tangdhar sector of Jammu and Kashmir. 4 militants were killed in the encounter with security forces. A high alert has been issued along the LOC to ensure that our borders remain secure and militants do not take advantage of the Indian Army's divided attention. With inputs from Navvikram Singh, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And time now to get you all the other national news and updates in Nationwide. Reacting to the CBI charge sheet regarding his involvement in the case, Chidambaram has said there was no violation of rules in the grant of FIPB approval to the Aircel Maxis deal in 2006. Congress leader Manish Tiwari also came out in support of the former finance minister, saying that the decision was taken as per law. Indian architect Alok Shetty has been named Young Leader of Tomorrow by the Time magazine for his pioneering work in designing affordable, flood-proof houses for slum dwellers. Alok Shetty is working with Bangalore-based NGO Parina Foundation, which designs homes for hundreds of slum dwellers which are safe from waterlogging during the monsoon season. A Labour court in West Bengal has sentenced 13 people to 20 years in prison over the gang rape of a girl at Labdpur village in Birbhum district. The incident took place on 21st of January this year. The 13 men were part of a gang rape court that ordered the girl to be gang raped as punishment for having a relationship with a man from another community. Inclusion is not about inserting people with disabilities into existing structures, but about transforming systems that are inclusive of everyone. However, even after years of recognition, children with disabilities are often neglected. Here's a special report.
With disabilities are often invisible in society due to a lack of availability of accurate data. Facing discrimination daily, they say a lack of adequate policies and provisions bar them from a right to education.
The focus is on the disability rather than the ability that they have. So, most schools hesitate to take, they refuse to take, in fact. Some people do take, but then, it's a school within a school. And the actual impact of inclusive education doesn't really take place.
India has achieved close to universal enrollment in primary education. However, the figures for children with disabilities are at the other end of the spectrum. Out of 2.9 million children with disabilities in India, 0.99 million or 34.12% children in the age group of 6 to 14 are out of school. The percentage of out-of-school children is more in the group of children with intellectual disabilities, speech and multiple disabilities as compared to other types of disabilities.
उनको आइडेंटिफाई करके स्कूलों में ला रहे हैं, फिर पढ़ाई की व्यवस्था कर रहे हैं और अब एक और किया है सामान्य स्कूलों में भी उनको पढ़ने की सुविधा उपलब्ध कराई जा रही है। इस कारण से उनकी संख्या में वृद्धि होगी।
The Rights to Education Act of 2009 provides clear guidelines about inclusive education and emphasizes on the rights of all children, including those with disabilities. However, many schools are still not equipped to cater to children with special needs.
Basically, when I'm speaking about inclusive curriculum adaptations, it means that the same curriculum will be equipped with additional methods for the teachers how the education can be delivered to children with specific disabilities.
We are also in the process of standardization of the curriculum of special schools dealing with the mentally impaired and the multiple disabled.
The dream of universal education needs to address the issue of inclusion in order to be fulfilled. And the key to that lies with developing a system of early childhood interventions for disabled children, capacity building of Anganwadi workers, and making schools free of biases. Anshu J. Singh, Rajya Sabha TV. We'll slip into a short break here. All the international news to follow after this quick break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching News Tonight. Now, two influential American senators have said the US-India relationship remains one of the most important partnerships in the world. The two senators said there was an opportunity to continue making progress in the ties that will benefit both the countries.
Ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the US next week, America is letting the world know how important relations between India and the US are. Two influential US senators, John Cornyn and Mark Warner, have said the Indo-US relationship was one of the most important partnerships in the world. They welcomed Prime Minister Modi to the States and said the US was looking forward to strengthening the partnership in several areas. The two senators are co-chairs of the Senate India Caucus, the only country-specific caucus in the US Senate. In a joint statement, they said as part of the caucus, they hoped to help the partnership reach its full potential. Both senators also praised Modi's leadership, saying there was already some progress in the relationship just in the 100 days under him. Senator Warner said, and I quote, "From energy to defense to counterterrorism to trade, the United States and India have many overlapping national interests. As our trade relationship continues to grow, increasing export opportunities to India will create more jobs for Americans back here at home," unquote. The two senators had recently introduced a resolution that designates September 30th, 2014 as US-India Partnership Day. The resolution was unanimously passed by the Senate. The US-India Partnership Day coincides with Modi's visit to the White House, highlighting the commitment to furthering the relationship between the two countries. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
A day after Bilawal Bhutto's outrageous comment on Kashmir, India hit back, calling it far from reality. The chairman of Pakistan People's Party, Bilawal Bhutto, had said on Friday that his party would get back entire Kashmir from India. He said this while addressing party workers in Multan region of Punjab on Friday. Former Pakistani Prime Ministers Yusuf Raza Gilani and Raja Parvez Ashraf were also present at the event. The BJP has dismissed Bilawal's comment as immature.
We are in the process of looking forward. And looking forward does not mean that our borders will be changed. We've made it very clear that as far as we are concerned, the integrity and unity of India is non-negotiable.
How can you take back something you've never had? And the young Mr. Bhutto seems to be suffering from some sort of delusion.
I think this is the time when they should be thinking about what to do to the poor people who have lost their houses, rather than keep ranting that we will take Kashmir, every inch is Kashmiri. What nonsense are they talking?
And world leaders declared solidarity in fighting the Islamic State during a UN Security Council meeting held on Friday. Chairing the meeting, US Secretary of State John Kerry said that Iran still has a larger role to play in tackling the Islamic State. Syria and Iran have been excluded from the US coalition to fight the Islamic State. Meanwhile, dozens of hostages abducted by the Islamic State militants from Turkish consulate in Mosul were freed on Saturday following a secret operation by the Turkish government.
The United States called the meeting on Iraq at the United Nations on Friday as it builds an international military, political and financial coalition to defeat the Islamic State. US Secretary of State John Kerry said that Iran has a larger role to play in tackling the IS threat, even as Iran hit back, saying that they are not convinced with the US strategy.
The coalition required to eliminate ISIL is not only or even primarily military in nature. It must be comprehensive and include close collaboration across multiple lines of effort. The fact is, there is a role for nearly every country in the world to play, including Iran.
We were not convinced that the United States government was serious. I'm sure that what happened yesterday in the House and the Senate, approving the request of President Obama for financing the Syrian opposition, does not correspond well with an attempt to fight terrorism.
Meanwhile, airstrikes against Islamic State militants is on full swing. US Navy planes carried out another round of airstrikes in Iraq on Friday. A day after France declared airstrikes against IS, French military also released cockpit video of Rafale jets participating in their first airstrikes. Meanwhile, dozens of Turkish hostages abducted by the Islamic militants in northern Iraq were freed on Saturday after 3 months in captivity. IS militants have seized 49 people, including the Consul General, during a raid on Turkish consulate in June.
Sadece sizin ve ailelerinizin için değil, bütün milletimiz için bayram günü. Allah her günümüzü böyle eylesin. Bir daha bu tür acılarla bizleri karşılaştırmasın. İnşallah.
As IS militants make further advances, tens of thousands of Syrian Kurds cross the Turkish borders. Turkey has also opened a stretch of its southeastern border to those fleeing from the IS advance. New data from the Terrorism Research and Analysis Consortium has meanwhile revealed that IS is putting governing structures in place to rule territories once the dust settles on the battlefield. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
Pro-Russian rebels and government forces in Ukraine are expected to retreat from frontline positions after a new peace deal was signed early Saturday in Belarus. The 9-point agreement hopes to create a buffer zone of 30 kilometers between the opposing sides, with each moving its troops back by 15 kilometers. The agreement also includes a bilateral ceasefire, no movement of troops beyond the front line, and no use of weapons or offensive action. Despite a ceasefire between the warring sides signed on the 5th of September, there were frequent and serious violations, including shelling that caused numerous civilian deaths. And time now to get you all the other international news and updates in the Global Buzz. New Zealand Prime Minister John Key has won a third term. Key's National Party secured 48% of the vote and held 61 seats out of 121. He also became the first New Zealand leader to govern in his own right since the country introduced proportional voting in 1996. Key was recently forced to defend his party against claims of dirty politics and mass spying. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has announced his return to politics. On his Facebook page, Sarkozy said that he would seek the leadership of the opposition UMP party. His move is widely seen as a first step towards a presidential bid in 2017. The UMP party elections are due to be held in November. Streets in the capital of Sierra Leone stood deserted after the country began a 3-day lockdown to check the spread of the Ebola virus. Health workers wearing protective biohazard suits went from house to house and checked each resident of the localities. Nearly 30,000 health workers, volunteers and teachers aim to visit every household in the country of 6 million people by Sunday to educate them about the disease and isolate the sick. Catalonia's parliament has voted in favour of holding a non-binding consultation on independence. The leader of Spain's Catalonian region, Artur Mas, said that he would defy Madrid to hold the vote in less than 2 months, as the people of Catalonia also deserve the same right to determine their future as Scots. Catalonia has sought a referendum on independence, similar to the one held in Scotland on Thursday. Time now for another short break. Up next, Jeetu Rai clinches India's first gold medal at the Ancient Asian Games. Details to follow after this quick break. Welcome back. You're watching News Tonight. Now, India had a fine start to the Asian Games campaign with medals in its kitty on the opening day of the competition. Both medals came from the shooting events. While the shooters stole the limelight, athletes in other sports began their campaign on a bitter-sweet note. Here's a report.
staged the world number one.
Indian shooters continued their sparkling form from the Commonwealth Games to win a gold and a bronze medal on the opening day. Shweta Chaudhary gave India the first medal, winning bronze in the women's 10-meter air pistol event. The Faridabad-born shooter was competing with a gun she was not used to, as her own gun had been held back by the Korean customs. She eliminated a rival through a shoot-off to ensure the bronze with a total tally of 176.4.
एशियन गेम्स में इंडिविजुअल मेडल जीतना एक बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है, चाहे वो ब्रॉन्ज हो या चाहे गोल्ड हो. चाइना के साथ और दूसरी कंट्रीज के साथ compete करना बहुत ही अच्छा, बहुत अच्छी उपलब्धि है.
You'd think it would be a cakewalk for Jeetu Rai.
But the cheering in the Indian squad got better as Jeetu Rai got the country its first gold medal in the 50-meter pistol event.
Not near the world record, but just enough.
The 27-year-old showed steely grit to snatch the gold off the final shot in a straight duel with his Vietnamese rival.
Remember, he had
Jeetu finished with an overall tally of 186.2. This was Jeetu's sixth medal on the trot in international competitions this year.
wears the national colours with such distinction. Jeetu Rai.
In badminton, India had a mixed day as the women's team were assured of a bronze medal after reaching the semi-finals. The women's team beat Thailand 3-2 in the quarter-final.
21-16, 21-17 against the more fancied, more experienced.
However, the men's team was outplayed by South Korea 0-3 in the pre-quarters.
The world's #1 team take the second game.
In squash, India were assured of its first ever women's singles medal in the Asian Games after top players Deepika Pallikal and Joshna Chinnappa won their respective openers and set up a meeting in the quarterfinals. In judo, Taudam Kalpana Devi lost to Kazakhstan's Linaria Mingazova in the bronze medal match. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And for all the other sports news, here's the sports beat. Five-time world champion Vishwanathan Anand came close to his second big title of the year after drawing with Ruslan Ponomarev of Ukraine in the fifth and penultimate round of the Bilbao Masters. Anand is at the top position with 11 points and needs only a draw in the final round to win the tournament. American sprinter Wallace Piermont has been given a 3-month ban by the United States Anti-Doping Agency after testing positive for a banned substance. The 29-year-old 200-meter specialist had tested positive for a banned substance after a meeting in Edmonton in July. His 3-month ban was backdated to start on the 27th of August. Lewis Hamilton edged Mercedes teammate Nico Rosberg by just 0.007 seconds to claim his sixth pole position of the season in a hugely competitive qualifying session at the Singapore Grand Prix. Red Bull's Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel took the third and fourth place respectively, while Ferrari's Fernando Alonso came in at the fifth place. London's Wembley Stadium will host the final and semi-finals of the Euro 2020 with 12 other cities joining the party in the first pan-continental tournament. Wembley got the nod over Munich's Allianz Arena. It will be the first time in the competition's history when a tournament will be hosted by more than 2 countries. That's all we have for you in this edition of News Tonight. Thanks for watching and good night.